Let's just,
Yeah.
okay, we just started our recording again. Okay, Esmeralda, as we were saying, and don't worry, this is going to be perfect. It's going to work out great.
Yeah.
Esmeralda, you were just like, okay, you're telling me that if you were your own best friend and you were looking at yourself with compassion, your friend, and she's telling you that she's stressed out because she's always succeeded. She gets a lot of her self-identity from success, and she rarely ever struggles when she has things because she's very intelligent and she's compassionate to other people, and she picks things up very quickly, and she just recently finished a master's degree, as we'd said in other counseling sessions. Just to get underneath it a little bit more, like, have you ever considered that some of the times in life when we grow the most are when we've been challenged? What do you think
Oh,
about that idea?
totally, 1000%. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it. You know what I mean? That's like me. That's my zone. You know what I mean? It's like I'll take on a challenge and I'll be like, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And I'm like the type where I'm like it's for me. It's more of like I like put it into my mind, and like I can just see it. You know, when it's something that I'm very motivated about. Like it's like when I was reading the topic on noticing. Like that's me 1000%. Like I can already envision myself getting there. You know, and nothing's gonna get in my way. Nothing, nobody, nothing ever. You know, and so that's just who I am. You know, and I try to do it with like humility and like you know always trying to stay humble. Um, but I think what it is for me, it's gonna be you make a good point because you asked me like when I'm challenged, right? And I love a challenge. I do. Um, so I think I'm gonna be okay. I think I'm gonna be okay with just getting the help and taking it one step at a time because I think that's where I need to start. And then once I see the results, then I'll know like, okay, now I'm on the right path, and now that an easiness is gonna get out of me. And I'm just gonna go, keep going the way I was going before, but now I have like more tools,
More tools.
if that makes sense.
Tell me more about what you mean by that. Like,
What I'm trying to
how
say
is
is like,
how are you going to know that you're being successful along the way if you just wait until the grade comes out? Like, what if you made little goals to, like, learn the APA 7 a little bit more, like memorize like what the format looks like? Have you ordered the book or anything like that to help you?
yeah.
Because it seems like there's more challenges that lay in wait than just what it appears. That's what you were saying. So tell me more about how you're going to get ready for this challenge of this formatting thing.
Well, for me, it's like I already have the book, like I have it, and I look at it and I'm just like, to me, like you know what it is. Here's one thing. Here's what I know to be true about me. Those little things, like those little tasks. I like taking on big tasks. Little tasks, like they irritate me, if that makes sense. I one time had a friend who told me like, hey, like you can like you're like the type of person like you can like do the hardest stuff, but the little things like you can't you just get frustrated with them, you know? And I'm like, you know what? That's true. Like I've always been that way. Like you can tell me to do something and I'll do it, but then it's like the small little things that are just like it doesn't matter. Like what does it matter? Kind of, if that makes sense. Like, some people can focus on like the smallest things because it's like kind of like I don't know, I can't even really explain it. For me, it just seems like it just seems very tedious.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're telling me that you're really good at big picture 10,000-foot stuff, but when it comes to the details, like that's not something that you're as good at. And so this is uncomfortable because you're being challenged to be good at the little things in order to even pass.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's like making you be good at the little things. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
that's life coming
yeah,
back to swat you in the head because you got away with not being good at the little things, and now that's not going to work.
yeah. It's to me like I always like to find it, and you know what? I think I'm taking it a little bit too far because this is like really not that big of a deal. But like I'm just looking at it in a different way of just other things in my life, right? It's not even has to be like related to this because it is kind of the same topic. But for me, it's like if I'm getting more out of like enjoying like what I'm reading and doing and learning, like that's where I'm gonna put my focus on, if that makes sense. Because I'm actually enjoying this. You know what I mean? And so the smaller things, I'm like, I don't want to put too much attention on them because I need to get the concept first of what I'm learning. But then in the back of my mind, I know that I have to make sure that that little part's right. So what I started doing was like, I'm going to do that at the end. And I'm going to look at I'm going to look at my directions. I'm going to look at the assignment, and then I'm going to start like figuring out what I want to write about it. And then I'm going to focus my attention on those small things, because if I start going small first, nothing's ever going to get done, because then I'm going to get so fixated on it that I'm going to run out of time. Does that make sense? Yeah.
If I'm hearing you right, you're forming a strategy that's going to work for you. And the thing that has been frustrating, you're already innovating and changing how you're looking at this problem so that it isn't standing in your way of doing everything else in your life and also being successful in finishing the assignment. So with that, we will conclude the third session. And now we're going to talk about our feedback on the group. Go ahead, anybody.
For me, I think it was just everyone's question was extremely helpful. It helped me to kind of that emotion part, right? Like it helped me get that out of the way. And now that I feel clear in that place, now I can focus on like, okay, what's my strategy? That's me. And so that was helpful for me to just kind of get down to like, what is annoying you? What's bugging you? What is it that's making you feel that way? That makes sense. So I do appreciate the questions. They were very helpful.
I felt like everybody's questions had different piece to what you were going through. And then I really loved, Esmeralda, at the end, the conclusion of like, this is my biggest plan, is I'm going to focus on the small things last. And I think that's like that realization. It was really cool to watch you move through the emotions and then get to that clarity and then say, okay, yeah, this is where it's going to help me. And I don't know, I thought that was really cool to witness.
Oh, thank yeah.
And I think just having the action plan, like you can tell you're frustrated, you want to vent, but you also want to find solutions too. So just, you can see, the frustration in the beginning, but then the kind of the clarity as the process is going on.
Yeah. That's my biggest downfall, to be honest with you, is like, if I feel like if I'm feeling some type of way, like I just kind of like, okay, let me get through this, and then let me figure out what's bothering me. And then once I get to that, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And that's kind of like the way I've always been. And it's just helpful for me. But sometimes I just get stuck in that place where I'm just like, I want to know why is this bothering me? Because if not, then I need to move past it.
I think we found out at the end that the reason it was bothering you is that you identify yourself as someone that is very intelligent and takes on, the things that in life, even the stuff that when you're going above and beyond, you're still like crushing it. And then when you came across this challenge, it wasn't like anything that you'd been faced with before, because despite your old ways of handling it, that wasn't working, and it wasn't working again and again. And you're like, getting wound up in the frustration, and then you made a breakthrough in this session by realizing that you can handle any challenge. Once you realize that this might be teaching you something so that you can grow a little bit more, all of a sudden you just lit up, like your whole face lit up, and you went, oh yeah, I've had tough stuff before, and I figured it out, and I'm going to figure this out. And then it's just like it's just like the sun came out.
Well, and I think it's also like you're paying money for this class, but you have a passion for it and you're doing it at work too. So it's like, you don't want to feel like you're throwing money away. And then it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to fail this class, am I going to fail at this career that I'm trying to change into? So you have that frustration of trying to provide for your family, trying to get good grades, trying to be successful. It's like, is this really what it is? But that's where you just have to keep remembering. It's just, 8 weeks, we can get through. It's kind of like childbirth and labor. You'll forget about it after the 8 weeks.
You're right. And yeah, you're totally right. And like I said, I'm really enjoying like everything I'm learning. Like even just it's like I see myself like getting really like I want to start reading something else, and then I'll start reading about that thing, and then that thing leads me to something else, and it leads me to something else, and it leads me to something else, and that's what I'm really enjoying right now.
Mm-hmm.
And now as we wrap this up, Angel, did you want to talk a little bit more about your feedback about when you were coaching Esmeralda?
I mean, more so just observations with witnessing everybody else coaching. I think, Beth, I loved the question that you asked of like, what do you want to get out of this? Like, bringing Esmeralda back to that place of like, what is the heart behind what you're doing? And I think, again, just for me, I wanted to create a safe space for Esmeralda to express and vent, but also, yeah, I feel like we kind of did that more than asking questions. It led to the thinking piece, which I think is important, to present the question, but then if the client can think and spend time really like, like that was something I also got out of the reading, is like giving that space to think and feel and then move to the next question. And so, yeah, I just appreciated everybody's questions. Jamie was like, hey, what is the problem? Let's unpack it. Was doing all the like, physical things of like the unpacking, let's see what's in here, and then moving through the emotions. And then Beth just kind of closing it into like, hey, what do you want to do with this now that you have this information?
And like I wonder, like in a real session, right? Like what that would look like, especially because you're so limited on time, right? And then like one person having to keep that focus on that one person, right? And like you want to know, like, how can I help this person the best way, and how much are we going to be able to get accomplished?
Yes.
How do I keep this person from not staying stuck in that same place? Because even in that video we watched, I don't know, I just felt like he was talking and talking and talking, and then she like there was never like she never I don't think she came zoned in enough, like where she stopped him. He which, and I don't know, it just seemed weird. That video was just weird to me when I was watching it, and I'm like, that's hard. Like if it's just you're one coach and you have one client, like when do you stop or
When
get
it's
them?
hard with it was hard with me trying to be the first person to dig it out and like try to get the information without being too forward to, it's like, well, not too sensitive, and then it's like, okay, everyone else would be able to piggyback off it. So it's like trying to get to that problem without being too, rude or insensitive about like what really is your frustration.
Right. Yeah, just even just starting something, right? Because like you won't know these people. Like you guys kind of know me a little bit, so you're kind of like, okay, she seems pretty open. Like you kind of know how to approach me. And then like if you think like, gosh, I'm gonna be dealing with all these different personalities, right? When I start coaching, like how do I, fine tune myself to just each person? Like how do I start it? How do I make it
How do
feel
you have
natural?
10 minutes to get you to open up to me about your issue, and then it's like, and then another 10 minutes and another 10 minutes? That's the hard part. It's like you're trying to relate to all three of us because we're all three different coaches. And then it's also like that, I think it's the time that's the hard part. Is I only have 10 minutes to ask you certain questions to get it out of you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I was trying to be a good client, right? Because I know like the goal and I know the process of like what you guys are doing. So like that's what I'm saying. Like so when you meet someone new for the first time and you're trying to get this coaching thing going, like I think we're all just gonna find our own way, like that works for us.
I'm going to
You know,
stop the video now. Thank you guys. Okay.